I'm sorry, I was counting children.
You good? All right, it is 6 o'clock. We will call the Monday, February 23rd board meeting to order. We'll first start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We got 2 consent agenda items. So we have the approval of the minutes from the January 26, 2026 board meeting, as well as the statement of receipts and expenditures from January 26. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
First and a second, any additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. That brings us to the John Long Middle School presentation. Mr. Weiss.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to John Long Middle School. We are very excited to have you all here, and to the board, thank you for being here. Thank you for this opportunity to present just a few of the wonderful things and showcase the great work that is going here at John Long, both among our I taught high school science, and so that was my introduction into the profession, and I'm so excited just to be among the leaders in education and getting to work with all the John Long staff and students who you'll get to meet here tonight. So as we look at this slide and look at the presentation overview alongside the picture of our student ambassadors and Freddie Falcon at the homecoming parade, we will share just some of the amazing things happening here at John Long. We will be treated to a performance from our a cappella group. We will be discussing the student support system that helps our students grow from wherever they are at. And our big finish will be hearing from our students who are in the John Long SOAR Enrichment Book Club, who have done some awesome things right here in the library. So our headline of the year is John Long Middle School becoming a 5-star school, significantly exceeding expectations on the state report card. So you'll see the students here, all of our student body. So 4 grades, 600 plus kids, all in one spot for one picture. And we were there talking about what that means, talking about how our achievement and our growth all work together to make this a great school on top of some of the other things that we do. And for the first time, reaching 5-star achievement, and also just kind of getting together and not forgetting to celebrate, because we do have to celebrate all the good things that are going on. So this is something that I will cherish for a long time because it's a really neat memory, and getting an 89.9 on the school report card is really an accomplishment. So felt great about that, and definitely a highlight and a headline for our year. Here are some pictures from this year as well. This kind of showcases the fun, the learning, and the service of our students that they have. So a couple of these pictures to the left and the top and the bottom right are our spirit days that we had either at homecoming or around the winter break time, the winter spirit days. The one in the middle with the fire truck is from our professional prep field trip, where 8th grade students got to go out and meet with some of the businesses in the community and learn about them outside the school. Able to get out and see a printing company and get to see a car dealership and a variety of other experiences. Fire department, obviously. You will see reading to elementary friends. So our Leo Club went out and read to some of the elementary schoolers in their classrooms. And then finally, the National Junior Honor Society and the Ozaki Food Ozaki Food Alliance food drive. So partnering with them and partnering with a lot of organizations just to make our community better, because strong schools and strong communities, we know the relationship there. So part of what's new at John Long is the spaces that went along with the referendum. So you look at another headline, and we became a 5-8 school this year, and along with that, had a lot of facelifts around the building, including this room. So what you can see here is how we are extremely fortunate to have these learning spaces. You see the classroom, collaboration spaces to the right, and the library right here, where some of our students were doing a school job that day when I caught them and made them pose for a picture. On this slide, you will see another classroom space in use, and the ability to use the flexible furniture, the teaching technology that we have available. You can see in the middle there, that is our cafeteria commons, which we also use for a learning space. That space has become so much more flexible and useful with the referendum. And then also there on the right, one of our hallways. All of our hallways got a facelift, making sure that all of John Long looks as nice as the new pieces of John Long, so that all of our students can benefit from the work that was being done or has been done. And along with that goes the refurbished science classroom. So able to refurbish and relocate one science classroom and then refurbish another science classroom to bring up the facilities so that wherever you look, it looks like a nice, new, and most importantly, functional space to learn. Something else I want to highlight is the results of the 2025 family survey that we had. There was a number of high marks, but some of the ones that are closest to my work and some of the ones I wanted to highlight here are 95% of our people who took the survey agreed or strongly agreed that they understand the academic expectations of the school. 93% agreed or strongly agreed that the child's school is secure, and 90% felt like their child was accepted by the adults at school, which of course you want. That number cannot be high enough, ever. Of course, with any good survey, it gives us an opportunity to look for growth. One specific area of growth from the 2025 family survey was, my child has not experienced bullying this year. Now, it's important to note that this number represented a 4-year high, but I think we all want to see that number higher than 70%, because that means that 30% experienced some sort of adverse peer experience equating to bullying that year. So we want to keep at that. That's such important work across all school buildings. Middle school can be a hard time regardless, so we want to keep up with that effort. A couple of ways that we do that. We are in year 2 of our Character Strong that we use during our SOAR time, and we're also in year 2 of our Falcon PRK, which stands for Pride, Respect, and Kindness. So we're going to stick with those and look for more opportunities to continue learning about respect, learning about how we treat each other. I think our students who have been here for multiple years could probably tell you we know how to do it, and making sure that we're consistent in our showing of character when the adults are around, when the adults are not around. We know how to be respectful of one another and prideful in the way that we treat each other with kindness. Engagement is key. Getting our kids involved in school and getting our kids involved in school-sponsored events is goal number 3 on our 300-day plan that we talk about a lot. And here are just some examples of the awesome clubs that we have at John Long to make sure that we are trying to reach all of the different students that walk through our doors every day. Here are some clubs that are either new or really picking up speed that we wanted to highlight. Of course, this is not all of them, but these are some hot clubs right now. So Dungeons and Dragons Club, Astronomy Club, HOSA, which is for future health professionals. Our Leo Club just got done. Actually, today, had our final collection for families in El Salvador. And our National Junior Honor Society, I mentioned the Ozaki Food Alliance, but also the work with Hometown Heroes. So again, just finding opportunities for our partnerships and our partners with the community to make it a better place. And for us, it allows that service learning component for kids, because we know that students are not just coming to school for the academics. They're coming to school for so much more. So the more we can vary those opportunities, the better job we can do reaching everyone. Which brings us to another great opportunity that was recently added to John Long, which is the Fly High Harmony a cappella group. So at this time, I'm going to invite Ms. Summer Klepik up, along with all of the members of the Fly High Harmony.
While we get set up.
Facing her.
Yeah.
How by me?
Slide in. Yep.
Row,
Just
row,
slide in.
row. Row right here.
I practiced.
They're better at singing than mine.
Yeah.
It's not the line. Oh, for you wanna get a middle seat?
Hi, I'm Summer Klepik. I'm the choir teacher here in Grafton, so I teach here at the middle school and I teach at the high school. This is our middle school a cappella group. They're called Fly High Harmony. This isn't even all of the students. Some of them have their own other things going on tonight. But I have somehow convinced 33 middle schoolers to show up every Wednesday morning at 6:45 in the morning, which I think is amazing. These are really awesome kids. And the goal is to set them up
run. That was really good. Yeah, we see a couple, but not a ton. I don't want to.
I saw that, yeah, they did a good job.
So that was awesome. Really incredible what Ms. Klepek and those students have been able to put together in their short time together. That was really good. Not good for middle schoolers. That was really good. I'm very proud and impressed. So I'd like to now pivot a little bit and introduce two very important members of our staff. We're going to talk to you a little bit about our SOAR Student Support Program, and that is Miss Betsy Pelichek, our school psychologist, and Miss Kim Yunker, our college and career ready instructional coach.
We should clap for you.
Hi, thanks for having us both here tonight. We're excited to let you guys know about all the exciting things happening here at John Long. I'll kind of break down what is our system for you to give you a little bit of an understanding. We talk in a lot of acronyms, so we're going to try to just say it like it is so you guys can all understand. Our multi-level system of support is based off of the Wisconsin framework from DPI, and we break it down into these different tiers. You might think of this also as RTI. It's another term you might have heard it as. So starting at the foundation is our Tier 1 support. We want to make sure that all students are getting a high-quality education. They are exposed to a guaranteed and viable curriculum. They have access to rigorous instruction that's based off of those state standards. So all students are having access to that. From there, we move on to more of a selected level, which is our Tier 2 level. And at that support level, we are breaking things down a little bit more specifically for students who maybe aren't getting it at that first try in the classroom. So this can look like a variety of ways. It can be in the class, a math teacher might pull over a small group to work on a concept that is just not clicking for kids, or they need some more practice with it. Or it can be during our SOAR time as well, where we have a specific identified group of students, and Kim will get into how we identify those students a little bit more, where we pull them aside and give them some more opportunity to gain access to those skills so that when they're in class, they can be more successful and feel more confident. From there, and here at John Long, we have probably about 11% of our students who are receiving those Tier 2 supports right now. And then from there, we are able to narrow it down even further to identify students who really are missing some specific skills that we've identified through a variety of data sources, which Kim will also speak to, where we can provide some evidence-based interventions and we can monitor their progress to ensure that they're growing and achieving in those areas. So the students at Tier 3 level are getting access to the foundation, they're getting access to some of those selected supports, and then we can also build on this third layer of intensive support for them. Here at John Long, we have about 3% of our students that are receiving those Tier 3 supports. Another little addition that we have noted on here is last year, if you remember, we had one SOAR period, which allowed us to work with fewer students at that more intensive level. But now we have revamped our schedule with the addition of 5th grade, and we're able to offer 2 SOAR blocks, which really allows us to give more access to more students to get what they need.
So John Long uses data to inform our system in a proactive, timely manner, which is responsive to student needs. Our student intervention team, which we abbreviate with SIT often, meets weekly to analyze different data points. So we start with looking at the previous year forward results for math and for English, ELA. Then at the beginning of the year, we start with our iReady diagnostic results. That creates a personalized instruction for each student, and we also monitor their instruction summary week to week. Through classroom data, we look at teachers' formative assessments, as well as grades, missing assignments, and then anyone who is in Tier 2 or Tier 3, they have the additional Ames Web benchmark progress monitoring. From there, we have additional collaboration with our classroom teachers. So it starts with the SIT team, and then it continues with our PLCs, our grade level teams, department meetings, and then individual conversations with teachers. Based on those conversations, we modify and adjust fluidly based on teacher input, and then we narrow down to find specific skills to be intentional and strategic based on student needs. The SIT team from there decides if a student needs to be in Tier 2 or Tier 3 intervention. And then kind of that first bullet point, that determines the length of the cycle. So the tier cycle may vary a little bit differently than a Tier 3, which requires multiple data points through progress monitoring. Furthermore, teachers use a variety of evidence-based resources, including this year we added a math intervention, expanding the number of reading interventions this year as well. And then now we have increased the number of staff who are available to support students.
All right, well, Kim talked a little bit about how students get placed into those systems, but throughout our system and throughout, as we're monitoring that data, we are changing and making adjustments. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how we are fluid and how we are responsive. We have looked at our data back to October, kind of when we launched this all and got it going. And our SIT team has made over 130 placement adjustments so far this year to be responsive and to be timely and not have kids sitting in any different environment when that's not what they need. We want to be able to move them based on teacher input, based on student feedback, and based on our data to ensure they're really getting what they need. Some of the placement changes that we're most excited about are students who have worked really hard in their interventions, and as a result of great progress monitoring data, they have proven to close that skill gap and are now performing in the average range. So we were able to exit 9 students so far from our interventions, and that really goes to, the credit for that should go to our intervention team. So Natalie Witt leads that up, along with Laura Borner, Derek Hofferman, Tara Daniels, Courtney Smith, Dane Bonjean, and Robin Morgan. So they're all kind of the boots on the ground at that most intensive level, helping to shore up those skills. We also believe here at John Long that it's all hands on deck. So those students couldn't get what they need if everyone else wasn't playing their part. We have that multi-level system of support, which includes an additional 30 staff members who break out into those Tier 2 supports or the Tier 1 supports. So I'm just gonna highlight a couple of those examples so that you can see how our system works beyond just the intervention piece. The first one is that we have a structured study hall option for some students. We have identified that there are some students who maybe have more missing work or their grades aren't what they feel like they're capable of achieving. And so we're able to put them into a supported study hall where they can have a lower teacher ratio and they can get some more touch points, more teacher feedback that way. We also have the large group study hall, which is held in the cafeteria. I think Chris showed one of those images earlier. That provides students with a quiet environment, a predictable routine where they can get their work done during the day. As we see, a lot of our students are really busy and have a lot going on, so it's a nice opportunity for them to have that 30-minute chunk in their day to get work done. Another highlight is our students with English learners are working through Imagine Learning, which is a computer-based program that targets vocabulary development. And a celebration is that we were recognized by the company for our great usage rates earlier in October, and the students who participate in that intervention got to throw a pizza party to celebrate their hard work. That helps them develop their vocabulary so that they can then go into the classroom and be successful. And then finally, which you'll be hearing from them next, we are really excited that this year we're able to offer some enrichment opportunities for students. So the students you'll hear from have excelled within their ELA curriculum. They're doing well in class, they're doing well on their data, and they're proving to be leaders in our building, and so we wanted to give them some opportunities to grow as well. We'll turn it over to them if they're ready to come up and present. You guys ready? We don't have slides.
Hello everyone, we are 8th graders at JLMS who are in the enrichment store. My name is Ashley.
My name is Ada.
My name's Amelia.
My name is Sophia.
My name's Kavya.
My name's Vivian.
And my name is Camila. In this store, we each have the choice to pick a book to read. We discuss our books, work on different projects, and present our ideas in different ways.
We have done various book club projects in SOAR, including To Kill a Mockingbird and The Outsiders.
In To Kill a Mockingbird, we did a newspaper-style report based on the main plot of the book and characters.
This book is a classic written through the eyes of a young girl named Scout.
It explores the themes of racial injustice, moral courage, and the necessity of empathy.
The idea of making a newspaper came from the idea to create a rival newspaper to the one in the book, the Macomb Tribune. Our newspaper was called the Macomb Times.
We even had a section in our newspaper that explored our rivalry with the Macomb Tribune.
Other parts of our newspaper were about different events in the books, such as the Robinson versus Evil case, which is on page 5.
For our other book, The Outsiders, we made a police file. This included descriptions of the characters and their criminal records.
This book is a coming-of-age story that explores the themes of growing up, social class conflicts, and loyalty.
Through Book Club SOAR, we were able to discover these books, explore new ideas, and express our interpretations of the books in unique ways.
Our SOAR provides an environment for us to explore new concepts, enrich our ELA skills, collaborate with others, and gain valuable life skills.
We are so excited to read more complex and challenging books.
A special thanks to Ms. Lesage and Mr. West for helping us enhance our learning. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
So I did not write that for them. They are really excited to explore new, advanced, and complex texts. But that whole group, it's a very large group. I think at this point in time, we have about 40 students in the Enrichment Book Club, and they're engaging. Their books are not assigned books. These are books that they choose to read, and it's on top of their coursework. Their projects, they have choice on how they're going to demonstrate their learning. We do some peer coaching, some peer feedback. We do some adult coaching. We ask questions, and they kind of use their skills to lay the foundation, and then they take it in really neat directions. So it's been really nice to see what they've just come up with and what they've been doing, and also just to hear them talk about it and the enjoyment they get out of that. So it's been a very good addition for our learners, that what they need is something more. So we try to keep the fun rolling. It's been a really exciting and fun year so far, trying new things and getting involved at John Long. We have more coming up. Some of these are events that we've had in the past. Some of them are brand new. The activity night coming up this Thursday is brand new, so students can come and engage in different activities from 6 to 7:30 on Thursday. On March 6th, we will have our first 5th and 6th grade dance, Spring Fling. March 13th is actually going to be our career day that we should have had we had school. March 20th is also a reschedule of the Courage Retreat because we had an illness with our facilitator. And then April 24th will be our winter formal, which is after the spring fling, so it's more like a spring formal for grades 7 and 8. So just going to keep the fun rolling here into the spring. And then, of course, we have the important school events that come up. We've got forward testing come up that we're getting psyched up for. And then the end of the year, as we see a lot of 8th graders here today, they're going to be promoted as new Blackhawks, which makes me very proud because I've been here for all 3 of their middle school years, and I've seen a lot of growth in this group and a lot of growth in their classmates as well. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Love to showcase just a really small window into the great things that John Long is having going on with our students and staff. So at this point, I would like to open it up to any questions or comments from the board, and we'd be happy to field those.
Comments or questions?
I had a question for the reading group. I was just curious, how do you decide which books to read? Is it something that you guys nominate, or is it recommendations from teachers, or?
We decided to do The Outsiders and The Mockingbird because we thought they were both pretty good classics that a lot of people have read, and we thought that I guess we'd check it out to see if they really got us that good.
And?
Yeah, exactly. Which was your favorite of them between the two?
Me personally, I like The Outsiders
Teach the rum.
Was-
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, going into like To Kill a Mockingbird, was this more of a challenging read for you guys than some of the things that you had assignments towards? That's a pretty- Yeah, that the timeline of it is certainly different than probably some of the things you've been reading currently in ELA, but these are really cool, by the way.
Did anybody watch the movies and then pretend to read the book? Is that, no? Okay, just checking.
You don't have to answer that.
Yes. Just testing Chris. Yeah, that was a California education thing, so.
Any other comments or questions? Well, great presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you. A lot of exciting things happening, and it's great to see everybody here and showcase the new facility as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks
for your
for
support.
Book club students, can we get a picture with you with the board? You guys took your time to be here tonight. Thanks, Tom.
I think you're going. He's always wants you.
I was a teenager when I was wearing it outside, or what's it? I was a teenager when I was wearing it outside. Going for the ball.
Trying to buckle up like a person I've never heard.
All right, we will continue with the rest of the superintendent's report then.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Weiss and your team for presenting that for us. Appreciate that. I want to welcome to Officer Ray Sterling, who is our new SRO across the district as of February 4th. Officer Alfonsi was our SRO for the past 5 years, and Ray has stepped in. We have a schedule set up for him, so he's going to be at each of our elementaries on certain days and at the high school and the middle school on the other days, but have an opportunity to have a checkpoint in each of our buildings, and has already been a welcome addition to our staff and is working closely with our administrators, just getting to know our students. There's an article in the Ozaki Press about him, and he'd coached in our district at the high school level before, so had some familiarity with some students over the past few years, but having him in our district is a great addition, and we want to welcome him, but also thank Officer Alfonsi for his years of service to our district. I want to congratulate the 25 students who qualified for the FBLA State Leadership Competition, which will be held in April in Green Bay on the 13th and 14th, and also special congratulations to the 10 students who are Region 6 champions, and to Shanak Chatahuri, who was elected as Region 6 Vice President. So good luck to Shanak, and know he'll represent our FBLA group well. Mr. Moore is going to come up and talk to us about some athletes who've qualified for state competition we've listed here, as well as one that just qualified this weekend.
Thank you. Always a wonderful opportunity to come up and speak on behalf of our young men and women that are doing so well in the world of athletics. And we want to congratulate the following athletes who qualified for state competition. Dance team qualified for state as a team, and soloist Avery Stiles. The ladies competed in lacrosse last weekend, February 6th and 7th. Or I should say 2 weekends ago. Competition cheer team competed this past weekend in Green Bay, finishing 5th overall. Congratulations to Coach Graybaugh and the girls for all their hard work. Wrestlers Ryan Gartman and Caleb Ernst will be competing in individual state wrestling this weekend at Madison, the Cole Center. And then just this past weekend, Audrey Hansen also qualified on the female side, so we're very proud to have 3 individual state qualifiers there. Swimmers, our GHS boys swim and dive team competed in Waukesha at the state meet, including Jacob Butler, Matt Sheehy, Sam Jacoby, Aiden Wardine, and diver Shambhav Ashakumar. They competed and represented Grafton very, very well on Friday night. With that, I'll turn it back over to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Moore. Chili Day is coming up for our fine arts program. It'll be at the high school. It's held on Saturday, March 7th from 11 to 2 at the high school. The event includes musical performances that are scheduled throughout the day, delicious chili, 50/50 raffle, and an online auction. Just got an email today from the boosters, so that online auction has started. So you can look at that online and bid on that, even for people who can't attend. But it's a great event coming up at the high school. This is their big fundraiser, and a great opportunity to support our students on that day. And then we have educational partners. We have a couple emails that I received one from the KES PTG. Says, through PTG fundraising efforts, we have been able to directly impact the learning environment of every classroom. To date, almost $7,000 has been used by our teachers and staff to purchase classroom supplies, enhance curriculum learnings, and provide resources for special projects. In addition, the PTG has showered our teachers and staff with over $2,500 worth of meals, snacks, and appreciation gifts. They had $2,800, which did some Amplify curriculum enhancements, $1,700 towards student and family activities, $2,400 towards classroom needs, and $2,600 with staff appreciation with dinners, lunches, or gifts, and so forth. Recent happenings, they have a restaurant give-back night on February 3rd at Even Odds Pizza, which donated $169 towards their group. And they just had their very successful fundraiser, the KES Silent Auction, Home Styles Stay In, Give Back, Make an Impact. Bidding opened on Friday and closed yesterday at 5, and they crushed their fundraising goal of $5,000 by raising $10,049. So they are blown away by the generosity of both our community businesses that donate items, families and friends that bid on them, and all for the sake of our school. In addition, we'd like to make a special shout out to the amazing teachers and staff at Kennedy that offered fun and unique experiences for our students to bid on, and contributing $2,375 to our overall total. Upcoming in March 10th, restaurant night at Noodles and Company, 4 to 8. And March 11th, they have a conference meal, a dinner for teachers and staff. And their Grafton Education Foundation has an update where they are expanding its team of student ambassadors. Students selected through a nomination process who help support GEF within schools and the community. These individuals take on various activities such as volunteering at events, updating the GEF website, and publishing engaging social media posts. GEF will again be offering the Golden Apple Awards for teachers and support staff in the school district. So the nomination period is open. Students, parents, and community members can submit a nomination online, and awards will be announced in May during Teacher Appreciation Week. Find information online at graftoneducation.foundation.org. And the deadline for teachers to submit a grant application to GEF is this Friday, February 27th. Grants are awarded for innovative and enriching educational experiences that teachers want to implement in any of the Grafton Public Schools. GEF awarded $59,000 in grants for 2025. And their next GEF fundraising event is a new one, and that is taking place at Ember Social in Grafton on March 21st. So join us for Sips and Slices for a family-friendly game with night with pizza and beverages. So find details on the social and their website. And I don't know if there are any other opportunities for some of our other fundraising groups to speak. I'm not seeing any. And last but not least, I wanted to give a shout out to our elementary teachers at both Kennedy and Woodview. Kohler Elementary School brought their entire teaching staff down to see our Amplify curriculum in action on Friday. So they were here during the day. I'll forward an email that the principal sent today thanking Julia and the principals for opening up their classrooms, letting them come in and see Amplify in action in our classrooms. So we've had a number of districts visit us over the last 3 years, but exciting to see a district that is a high-performing district coming down to see what our students are doing at the elementary level. And so kudos to our teachers for all the work they're doing to help our students learn, which is great. And with that, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Next, public comment. I did get one email that I did forward on to the whole board, so that's all that I had received. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak to the board? Okay, seeing none, we will go to item D, informational item from the February 9th Curriculum Committee meeting.
Yes, the curriculum committee met on February 9th. Just for informational, we had an update on the Human Growth and Development Ad Hoc Committee. They met in January, and topics discussed during that meeting were board policy, state statute, current standards, and previous committee relief statements. And their next meeting will be on Wednesday, February 25th. Then we have our recommendation for board actions. And we had recommendation for textbook adoption. We had Child Development 1 and 2. The current textbook license expires at the end of this school year. The recommendation is to purchase the updated 2024 version of the existing textbook. A new edition includes current information on brain development and updated digital resources. The purchase cost is going to be $5,647.10 for 30 hard copies and a 6-year online access. And Julia is here to answer any questions. And the committee is recommending it. It was reviewed by the teacher and determined to be a good fit. Any questions for Julia?
Any questions regarding this textbook's adoption for Child Development 1 and 2?
Nope.
Good.
Okay.
Do
We're
we
also,
wanna- Do we want to go through them all and then go back, or do you want
We'd have to do each one separately.
to? Okay.
oh, so we should,
You wanna just do it? We can do
Okay.
it now? Okay. All right. No questions? All right. With that, I would look for an approval to purchase 30 hard copy books and access to the online textbook Working with Young Children for the Child Development 1 and 2 classes.
so moved. Second?
Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. Thank you very much.
Then we also had an update on the science curriculum review, and the K-5 teachers recommended continuing Project Lead the Way curriculum that they've been using with the addition of some extra chapters. 6 through 8 teachers recommended continuing with CPUP, Lab Aids program. Specific unit additions and changes are proposed at kindergarten, 2nd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. And continuing Project Lead the Way requires an initial cost of $9,420 for new startup kits. And she's going to share a little information. Julia will share some information about those changes.
Yes. Just like Carrie mentioned, this year is our K-8 science review. So our K-5 teachers would like to continue with Project Lead the Way. And then our 6-8 teachers would like to continue with CPUP Lab Aids. And I'd like to share a little bit more detail about the changes that are proposed for our K-5. So each grade level team had a representative on the science committee, and they looked at their current state and then made some recommendations based on team feedback. So as mentioned, kindergarten, 2nd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade are looking at adding or changing their current Project Lead the Way units. And 1st and 3rd grade would like to keep the current units. They are happy with it as it supplements our Amplify curriculum and provides some science learning. So in kindergarten, the additional unit they're proposing is pushes and pulls. This increases kindergarten from teaching 3 units to 4 units. It will build additional vocabulary and opportunities for student collaboration. Some of the content in this unit is forces, scientific inquiry, exploring speed and distance, and pushes and pulls. Our 2nd grade teachers would like to add diversity of life as an additional unit, and they would also like to replace their form and function unit with properties of matter. They feel like there is time in the year to teach 3 units instead of 2, so that's where the additional unit comes into play. And they would like to replace the form and function unit with properties of matter because it's more relevant to their student lives. So talking about diversity of life, they'd be learning about habitats, and properties of matter is phases of matter. 4th grade would like to replace Earth, human impact, and natural resources with organisms, structures, and function. The rationale for replacing this unit is the current unit is covered in 3rd grade science, 4th grade social studies, and also the Amplify Geology unit. So they have that topic frequently prior to getting it in science, PLTW. So this replacement unit would expose students to new content. What would be covered in organism structure and function is an overview of living things, looking at different structures like leaf structures, teeth structures, internal plants. They'll also look at animal and human body structures, as well as designing a plant and animal prosthesis. 5th grade, they are proposing adding an additional unit, patterns in the universe. Again, they would like to add this because with the new schedule here at John Long, they have additional time to teach an additional unit. This unit would cover topics that would support gaps previously seen by the 6 through 8 teachers. They had conversations with that on the scope and sequence, and the content would look at stars, constellations, moon phases, as well as changes in the night sky and space science exhibits. As Carrie mentioned, there's an initial cost of $9,420 to get the additional kits. There are going to be ongoing costs for supply replacements. That's included every year in the budget. And then there is a PLTW launch fee, which is $950 per school. It's an annual cost, and since our 5th grade moved over to John Long, we are now budgeting for 3 schools instead of 2. Thank you. Yes.
So the committee is recommending approval of the new curriculum.
Comments, questions? Good. Makes sense? All covered at the curriculum meeting, so with that, I would look for a motion to approve the purchase and implementation of additional PTW units for the 26-27 school year as presented.
So moved. Second.
Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. Thank you very much.
Then we're also looking for approval tonight for the school perception survey, key performance indicators. We got an update provided on the school perception survey. It'll be administered to students the week before spring break. Updates include clarifying the elementary script and adding a question about AI usage. The survey measure the Vision 2030 key performance indicators of 100% connection and 21st century skills. Updates to the language of KPI LR4 are needed, and Julia's going to share some additional information. The committee was able to look at the survey and discuss it.
Yes. So as Carrie mentioned, last year was our first year of implementing this survey. It fulfills our KPIs LR2 and LR4. As she mentioned, we are going to continue with the survey again this year. It will be the week before spring break. And she also provided our updates to the survey already. So looking back at LR2, which is our 100% connection rate, this means we are looking at 7 questions on the school perception survey. The 7 questions that school perceptions deems connected to connection are listed there. And based on how students responded, we were able to get our KPI baseline data, which is 92% of our students report feeling connected in our districts in grades 3 through 12. The criteria used was the average number of students who selected sort of or definitely on the 4-point scale on those 7 questions. So that's just an update, but then the action item we're looking for is based on KPI LR4. Our current language states that it was to develop a student survey with an emphasis on 21st century skills. Our instructional technology leadership team discussed what that criteria was and created questions for the school perception survey based on what these main categories for students to be college, career, and life ready. So you can see the different headings there. And we added a total of 14 questions to the school perceptions baseline survey to help meet this KPI. Based on the results from the survey, we would like to propose to change the KPI language. We have already created a survey, so now we want to measure the results of the survey in a similar way to our connectedness. So we are proposing, sorry, there's a typo there, 95% of students will report confidence in grade-appropriate number of targeted 21st century skills as measured by the annual student survey. And those grade bands are listed there as 3 through 4, 5 through 8, and 9 through 12. And then you can see our baseline data from 2025 for each of those bands in order of 97%, 99%, and then 99%. The reason we're recommending changing the goal is it initially stated 90%, but based on our baseline data, we'd like to change the goal to be 95%.
Comments, questions? And I do like the 100% for the connectedness. I mean, I think that goes back to what Mr. Weiss says, is that number can't be high enough to make sure that we have everybody connected at some level. right, so are there two recommendations we need to take here then?
There's only one.
Just the bottom one?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I would look for a motion to define the school district's KPI for 21st century skills to be 95% of students reporting confidence in grade appropriate number of target 21st century skills as measured by the annual student survey.
So moved.
Second.
Additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your work, Julie.
After curriculum, we had finance.
Yes, at finance, we had two informational items regarding insurance strategies and reviewing projections, or revenue projections were reviewed. Three items were also covered for recommended board action. For the informational items, the first one was the self-funding insurance strategies. We had Dan in from the Horton Group. The committee reviewed the 2025 fiscal year performance of our self-funded health plan, noting a loss ratio of 91.2% with planned costs approximately about $3.5 million. Also talked strategic planning, again with Dan, who presented some potential strategies to consider for managing costs, including a new or a pharmacy benefit manager, care navigation, and direct primary care. Topher is going to cover and has some presentations on the other items.
Yes, so we also brought an informational piece looking at revenue projections, not for 2024-25, but rather for 26-27, looking forward, not backwards. So big piece of revenue for all school districts, including us, would be the revenue limit, which is driven by our membership. Again, those are residents of the school district, whether they attend our district or open enroll out, so our membership. And then that's looking at how many kids we have basically, multiplied by how much we're allowed to raise per each student. After years of declining enrollment, we continue to project increasing enrollment and increasing membership. You can see that the 2023 number of 2016 members is dropping off, being replaced by what we're projecting next year to be 2,142. So that will significantly increase our average of membership. This is driven very much in part to the single-family permits in the village. And so we've been tracking this, and we get this data from our partners in the village so that we can see not only what has actually occurred, but what is projected to occur in the future. So you can see they continue to project continued growth in new family, single-family homes in the village. So we take our increasing membership and we take a look at the fact that the last two biennial budgets have increased that per member amount that we're allowed to raise by $325. So we're expecting next year to be able to raise $12,207 per member. I'll point out that the increase in membership is responsible for about $500,000, $500,000 of increased revenue for next year. That, of course, as we get more students coming into the district, we, of course, need more staff. We need more teachers to be in front of them. And then that $325 that we are allowed to raise per kid more than we did the previous year, that's about $687,000. And I would point out that that dollar amount is about a 2.3% increase relative to last year's budget. So you're talking about out of about $30 million, we're getting an additional 2.3%, which again is below inflation. CPI that we'll use for bargaining this year, 2.63%. And certainly there are other items like health insurance, which projected to potentially go up 10%, that we have to grapple with. Another piece of revenue that we have coming in, because we have more kids open enrolling in than out, is open enrollment. You can see that open enrollment in revenue is going, we're projecting it to be about stable. Now, the amount per student is going up, but as we have over the past couple of years, we have limited how many open enroll seats we open up because we have so much growth in resident enrollment. And so we want to make sure we're not having to add classroom sections by adding students into certain grades where that would necessitate additional staff members. So that's why you see it being leveled out. We get more per kid, but we're expected to have fewer students open enrolling in because we are limiting it. Open enrollment out, we don't really have control over that. Dollar amount, just like open enroll in, is going up. We stayed pretty stable with those numbers, so we would anticipate more expenditures going out for open enrollment out. That means our net revenue, we would project that to go down perhaps nearly $100,000. But again, because of that increased resident enrollment coming in, overall, we can take that loss of net revenue regarding open enrollment. So overall, Fund 10 revenue is expected to go about 3.9%, up to $30,875,000, about $1,150,000. But there are some issues that certainly we want to be aware of moving forward. That $325 that we are able to increase per member could go away depending on what happens in the fall election next year. That's also been put on the table as a negotiation piece for making other budget deals regarding some of these other pieces that I'll talk about as well. And again, that $325, while it could go away, even that $325 falls short of inflation that we are feeling the pressure on our expenses. It is why you've seen so many operating referendums around the state and in our area. Special ed aid is a particularly difficult issue right now. The budget we're currently in was supposed to provide us 42% reimbursement on last year's expenditures. Right now, DPI is projecting that we'll only receive 35%. So a significant decrease. If I go to the book here, it's about $180,000 shortfall for this year. We're supposed to get 45% next year. That obviously would fall short, right around the neighborhood of $292,000 for next year. So certainly there's been discussion of taking the budget surplus that the state has and backfilling that. So we do, in fact, get 42% this year and 45% next year, so that it would be some sufficient rather than some certain. And then another issue is the equalization aid freeze. So across the state, you saw property taxes related to the school portion of the property tax bill go up 7.5% around the state because the state budget did not provide any new funding into equalization aid, which is meant to offset property taxes. So by freezing that and having revenue limit increases, basically that was putting any increases onto property taxes. Now, we were able to avoid that issue by basically using flexibility in our debt fund levy, and we would be able to do so again next year if it continues to be frozen as state law would say it is in 2026-27. Now, moving forward, if it would continue to be frozen, then we would get caught up similarly to what other districts have had to deal with, seeing property taxes increase fairly significantly. So wanted to bring that to the table, and even that middle piece there, state special ed aid, that doesn't even include high cost aid, which is potentially even more problematic, where the state said they were going to provide 50% reimbursement on high cost aid. That's cost per student above 30,000, and then 90% the second year. I was working with Amanda today, looking at that, kind of projecting how that might come in. It's looking like perhaps we would only receive 25% reimbursement on that, rather than 50%. So certainly a concern moving forward, looking at our revenues in special ed. Speaking more on the operating referendums, certainly there were plenty of operating referendums in 2024. 131, as a reminder, there's 421 districts across the state. Then the following spring, there were another 61 ballots put on, or questions put on that spring of 25 ballot. Obviously, no big fall election in 25. We'll see what happens in 26 as we have both spring and fall elections. Over $1 billion were added to revenue limits in 2024 alone. And just to take a look at North Shore numbers, these are our North Shore neighbors. And you can see we're in orange, in case you weren't sure. That's us, and you can see how many districts have operating referendums in the North Shore, including some new ones for some nearby neighbors, and how they have extensively more revenue that they can raise and spend in the classroom than we do. Certainly, we monitor this to take a look at pressures that we would have competing with districts that are able to spend more money per student than we are. Next steps, March and April, we'll be looking at what our personnel needs are, and we're working on that now and certainly bringing that forward for board action. And then in May and June, we'll bring everything together, personnel costs, non-personnel costs, along with these revenue projections, to get a preliminary budget approved by the board in June for use on July 1st. September, we'll have our annual meeting. And then in October, once we receive final budget information from the state, we'll finalize that budget and certify the levy for 2026-27. Any questions on the revenue projections, which is information only?
Comments, questions? Thank you for the update.
Moving on to some action items brought forward from the Finance Committee. First is the audit report. We did have Carrie Gint from our audit firm, Riley and Penner, come and present the audit report to the board, take questions, have discussion about our results from 2024-25. The process was certainly conducted with professional standards. There was no screaming or yelling that occurred. Management was prepared for it. We were also very cooperative. Always happy to see that. For fund balance changes, the general fund did decrease fairly significantly. A big portion of that is the fact that we double up on that transfer to Fund 46 every other year. Last year, if you looked at the audit report, we had an increase in the general fund, primarily because we held off on making that transfer into Fund 46. We also had a debt fund increase of over $3.2 million. That is primarily driven by the fact that we levy into the debt fund every year, but we make payments every other year. The scheduled payments are every other year, but the levy occurs every year to make sure those levies and property tax bills stay fairly stable. And then the capital fund decreased over $6 million as expected. Here we are in John Long Middle School. That was primarily over the year taking care of the majority of this construction project, which was over $11 million in total. The findings, two of them, which we see every year, which was the fact that our auditors prepare our financial statements, the segregation of duties, because we are a smaller district, districts even larger than us, aren't able to reasonably hire enough staff in the finance department to be able to segregate duties. So that's a finding that we have every year. And then we did have to make some adjusting entries related to some of the referendum bond proceeds that we had coming in, as well as holding off on certain payments for construction related to July. So we had to make some entries there. No material weaknesses were found. And so again, I want to thank Carrie for coming in and making herself available to the Finance Committee for questions, for being able to deliver this. Finance has brought forward a recommendation to, I believe it's accept or receive the audit report. And so I'll open it up to any questions or discussion on that item.
Okay, reviewed at the Finance Committee meeting, and back to the full board, so, you're right, the findings are consistent with what we've seen in the past, so I'm good. All right, with that said, I would look for, recommend to acknowledge receipt of the 24-25 audit report as presented.
So,
Second.
All right, additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that passes. Thank you very much, Topher. 26-27 school fees.
All right, so school fees, so at Finance, we presented the current school fees and compared them to our neighbors. Currently fairly comparable to our neighbors. We're pretty close to the middle of our counterparts here in Ozaukee County. Basically, we came out with a recommendation from Finance to make no changes for student fees for next year, keeping them where they're at. I would open up to any questions or thoughts. We do have a recommendation, essentially to do nothing.
Okay. Comments, questions? Though the recommendation is to do nothing, I do appreciate that it comes back every year, and at least give us that chance to look at it and understand where we at compared to our neighbors, and appreciate you pulling the data presented. So, with that, I would look for a recommendation for there to be no change in school fees.
so moved.
Second.
Additional discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. Thank you.
Next up, facility use fees. So this will be something that does come back annually to take a look at, just like we do with student fees and school fees. We hadn't really looked at these for a number of years after they were set in 2018. We brought them back last year after seeing that they had fallen pretty far behind the comparables of our neighbors. And so last year, we did make some adjustment for fees last year. We did not change any of our category, I shouldn't say category 1, but category 2, basically our feeder program fees. We made no change. And then for the other categories, we did make a 10% increase, rounded up to the nearest dollar for those last year. We bring them back again this year. We talked about it at Finance to take a look at it, so that it shouldn't say category 1, 2, and 3. It should say category 2, 3, and 4. The recommendation is to increase those fees by 10%, rounded up to the nearest dollar. This would still leave us pretty low compared to our neighbors, unlike what our school fees are, which are pretty comparable in terms of where they are. So I'll open it up to questions and or thoughts to consider the recommendation that came out of Finance for increasing category 2, 3, and 4, 10%.
Comments and questions?
Just for the hundreds of people in attendance, the camera can't get them. So category 2 is groups made up of 75% Graftonites, essentially. Groups that have kids in their organization that comprise 75% of that organization, correct?
Yeah, at least 75% have to be made up of Grafton students, so obviously you have your gladiators, right, Glendale Little League, the basketball program.
Hoops.
Oops, thank you. And among many others, yes.
And then 4 is for-profit entities.
Yes, category 4 would be typically your for-profit or certainly organizations that aren't our kids. So for example, even churches, if they would come, they're not for-profit certainly, but they aren't necessarily a feeder program for our kids. So essentially, yes.
And category 3 is relatively non-existent?
It is, yes.
What's your driver for comparing it to our neighbors?
Similar to student fees. So we want to be comparable to our neighbors. It's been kind of a drive that we don't want to necessarily be an outlier for a number of the things we do. And so that's the piece there. Knowing that in the area, you can certainly look at other places to potentially use their facilities. And, you know, especially in particularly category 4, they can be free agents and move from one place to another. But the driver is to say, we are being comparable to our neighbors in terms of revenue we might bring in to take care of the facilities that we have, which is what we did back in 2018 when we put them in place in the first place.
Do we have a total budget number that category 2 income brings?
So category 2 doesn't bring in much income because for the most part, they donate equipment, they donate like the shed over at Kennedy, they might donate blocking sheds, speaking of the Gladiators specifically. And so we accept that donation and then we offset any fees they would have to pay us for facility use for that donation. So in category 1, for the most part, we're accepting donations to offset the fees that would come in.
Other comments, questions?
I think we're still, even with the 10% increase on that top tier group, we're still probably one of the more competitive districts for people coming to use our facilities, it looks like, and that's pretty accurate to say.
Yes.
Anything else there? No. So the only, I view it a little different, we've said this at finance, we'll say it again here. I think category 4, it's good to be competitive because you are competing. Category 2, we are serving the kids that go here, by and large. A 10% increase in a budget item that's not generating much, by my math, isn't much. And that cost is gonna get passed along throughout the various organizations. So, those are my thoughts. I appreciate the thought that you're putting into it. Those are mine.
Anyone else?
I mean, overall, it's not a big chunk of money. I thought it was like 30,000 in total. So it's not a big chunk of money by any means. And I think there are only two organizations in group 4. So if you go too high, you might lose it.
Yep.
And you would say even with group, if there were people that came to us in group 3 and 4 right now, we still have available time, fields, and facilities that would be available for rent, correct?
Yes.
All right, so we have a recommendation by administration. Any thoughts on that? Okay, I'll ask the question of the, do we have a motion to accept the recommendation of the increased facility usage fees of 10% rounded to the nearest dollar to be more comparable with local districts?
So moved.
Second.
Additional discussion? I guess the only other thing that I guess I would say is we haven't increased for 7, 8 years, correct?
2019, yep, it's November 2019.
It's been about 7 years. Certainly would not want to ever be the highest in any of that, but I think there is probably some fairness to say that You know, we do want to keep our fees up, we do want to keep them, that priority of it, and keeping our buildings open, so, with that, I guess I'm okay with the 10%. Okay, got a first and a second, additional discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed.
Good. Kara, you good? You- Okay. All right, and then, as you mentioned, then Topher is same as the school fees. We'll bring this back every year with an opportunity to review it. So we
Correct.
want to do in the future. Okay. Thank you. And I think that completes the Finance Committee meeting. Personnel report.
Yes, we have one resignation at the end of the year of Elizabeth Sands, special education teacher at John Long Middle School, effective 6/10/26, that we ask for board approval for. And we have a new hire of Bailey Anuda, accounts payable facilities coordinator in district offices, informational only. And then we have Subadura, administrative assistant, John Long Middle School, effective 6/15/26, and Heidi Hink, special education para at Woodview Elementary School, effective 6/10/26 for retirements. This is the first time in my 10 years we have no teachers retiring, but we have 2 support staff that have put forward their retirement notices that they'll be retiring at the end of this school year. So informational only for the board, but we would ask for approval of Elizabeth Sands' resignation for the end of this school year.
Comments or questions on the personnel report? All right, seeing none, I would look for a motion for the resignation of Elizabeth Sands, special education teacher, John Long Middle School, effective 6/10/26.
So moved.
Second.
Additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes. And we welcome Bailey, and we wish Sue and Heidi the best in retirement. Yes. Mid-year local data reports.
Yes, I'm here to share an update on our local data. So we give a number of assessments at K through 8. In reading, we are required to give the Ames Web assessments in grades K through 3 per Act 20. There's multiple assessments at every grade level. I'll be sharing some of those with you today. And then our district, a local assessment is iReady. We gave that in reading in grades 1 through 8 this year. And then in math, we also give iReady in grades 1 through 8. And new this year, our kindergarten students use Ames Web assessments for math, and I'll explain that a little bit more. Starting with reading, I just wanted to remind you, Ames Web is new. This is the second year. You saw this last year, but they have different percentile bands based on national percentiles, and you can see that those ranges listed there. Mostly we're going to be talking about the green, teal, and blue, so those are students who are average or above average. The orange and yellow we'll be talking about when we discuss personal reading plans later in the presentation. So looking at our kindergarten, again, reading assessments, the kindergarten students were required to take 4 subtests in the fall and 5 subtests this winter. There are 2 assessments that make up this score on the screen, which is our composite, and that is letter naming fluency and letter word sound fluency. So based on our data that we received in the fall, again, green and higher, we had 91% of our students average or above average. And then in the winter, we had 86% of our students average or above average. The changes are due to a number of reasons. The expectations do shift as the school year continues on. So some of our students that were maybe low-end average might have shifted down into that below average. In addition, the letter naming fluency subtest specifically increases in rigor and expectations. And as mentioned last year, our Amplify curriculum does not teach letter naming explicitly until January. So we did expect to see a little bit of a decrease in the winter, but it will bounce back in the spring just like last year. First grade assessments, again, a composite score. First grade was required to take 7 subtests in the fall per Act 20, and in the winter 4. This composite score that's listed up there combines word reading fluency, nonsense word fluency, and oral reading fluency. This is a change from last year. So last year, for students to qualify for a personal reading plan, it was only one test. It was oral reading fluency. So they made that adjustment to be more encompassing, better for our students. You can see that we had 93% of our students average or above in the fall, and then 88% in the winter. Again, very similar to kindergarten, there was a change in expectations from fall to winter. The oral reading fluency specifically went from reading 6 words per minute to 18 words per minute. So that big jump is why we saw a decrease. But as they get used to that assessment and are learning to read in first grade, we expect that to also have more students average or above in the spring, like last year. Our second grade assessments, we have 2 assessments that are given in second grade. We have the ORF, which again is oral reading fluency, and then a vocabulary assessment. Only the ORF triggers a personal reading plan. You can see that in the fall we had 79% of our students average or above, and then in the winter we had 82%, so we had some growth there. For vocabulary, in the fall we had 78% of our second grade students average or above, and then that increased to 91% in the winter. Just like last year, we continue to see strong vocabulary scores. Our Amplified curriculum does a great job of exposing students to different topics, different vocabulary words, and you'll see that in third grade as well, that our vocabulary scores are just very strong across the national percentiles. In third grade, again, 2 assessments, oral reading fluency and then vocabulary. In the fall, we had 90% of our students average or above, and then in the winter, we had 91%. For vocabulary, for third grade, in the fall, we had 95% of our students average or above, and then that did drop to 91% in the winter. That was a decrease of 5 students. Same as second grade, only oral reading fluency triggers a personal reading plan. So as a reminder, Act 20 reading plans, here is the assessments that trigger that. We're looking at the national percentile for that orange and yellow band. Looking at our personal reading plans, I have the fall data and the winter data listed there for you. You can see the total number of students for each grade level as well as the percentage. We saw a slight increase again in kindergarten and first. That's expected based on the data that I previously presented. And then also a slight decrease in second grade because we did see that growth in the oral reading fluency from 79% to 82%. Third grade is a little bit unique because you'll notice that we had 10 students in the fall qualify for a reading plan. Technically, there was only 7 students who qualified in the winter. However, based on Act 20, we are not allowed to dismiss those students until they have taken the third grade forward test. So technically, we still have 10 students on a reading plan, even though their scores would have kicked them off. All the students who are below the 25th percentile and on personal reading plans will be invited to participate in our reading summer school class. So they will get early registration like they have in the past to be able to allow them to fill schedules so that they can get that additional support over the summer. Switching over to math. So again, this is a new assessment for our kindergartners. The teachers wanted to switch to gain better, more accurate data. The assessments for Ames Web are one-on-one, which is different than iReady, where it's a computer-based test and they have put the kids on a Chromebook or an iPad and they click through the assessment. The teachers feel like the assessment provided more relevant and again accurate data on how students are doing in terms of math readiness. In the fall, the composite score, we had 78% of our students average or above, and then in the winter we had 77%. The composite score makes up 3 tests. It is number naming fluency, being able to say the names of numbers presented to them. Quantity total fluency, which is simple addition, and then also concepts and applications, where the students are asked a question and then they have a multiple choice answer that they need to select with the teacher. Looking at 1st through 8th grade, so we'll jump back to reading. This is our iReady, again, our district assessment that we give 3 times a year. This shows our reading scores for all the students in the fall and also in the winter. You've seen these charts before. Students in grades 1 through 8, we had 50% of our students in those green bands, which is early on grade level or above. And then in the winter, that did increase to 63%. Subsequently, all the other bands did see a decrease from fall to winter. So the yellow band, which is 1 grade level below, the red band, which is 2 grade levels below, and then that dark red band, which is 3 or more grade levels below. This is also something that you've seen previously. It's comparing how we did this winter to last winter. One caveat is that it's not really apples to apples comparison anymore because we did pull out kindergarten. So winter 2025 has kindergarten through 8th grade data, and then this past winter is just 1st through 8th grade data. However, it does generally show that we are in a similar spot to last year in terms of the percentage of students in each band. Then looking at math, 1st through 8th grade. Again, from fall to this year to winter, we saw an increase from 40% of our students in those green bands, early on grade level to above grade level, to 60% in the winter. And then again, similar to reading, a decrease in all 3 other bands due to that growth. And again, here is our math comparison from last year to this year. Same as before, kindergarten's not included this year, but you can see a general trend that we are in a similar spot to last year. And in fact, when you're looking at this data, kindergarten was not included in any of the red bands anyways, because a kindergarten student cannot be 2 or more grade levels below. So really, when we're looking, most of our kindergarten students fall in the yellow, green, and dark green bands anyways. Okay, another item that iReady provides is projected proficiency. So the data in the next couple of slides is going to show us this projected proficiency. And what that means is iReady can try to predict the number of students who are going to be meeting or advanced on the forward exam given in the spring. And they predict that by saying, we believe if students make normal growth, this many students will receive a score of 3 or 4. Historically, iReady projected proficiency has not been very reliable. You can see that in the winter 2024 columns. The first column shows what iReady predicted. The second column shows what they actually received on the forward exam. And then that third column is the change. However, iReady did do some adjustments last year, and that's where you can see the data from winter 2025. It is a little bit better this is our reading projected proficiency. Again, you can see what they projected what percentage of our students would be meeting or advanced, and then what we actually got, and then that change listed there. Again, still a discrepancy. You can see the closest one was 5th grade with only about 2 points off what they projected. However, when we look at math, it's a slightly different story. So their adjustments have been more spot on with a more reliable predictor within 5 points, whether it's positive or negative. Again, previously you could see they were underreporting how many of our students would be proficient by almost 20% in every grade level. So that being said, we're going to continue to look at projected proficiency and just find the trends and then see if it's going to be an accurate predictor moving forward. So here is our elementary projected proficiency data. You can see 3rd grade, we don't have any data from last year. This will be the first year they take the forward exam. So they are projected to have 78% of their students meeting or advance on the forward exam. In 4th grade, I did include last year's data as well. So I already projected 76% of our students to be meeting or advanced. We actually got 84%, 84.8% of our students. And then again this year, they're projecting 72%, and we'll see how accurate that is. Based on, again, this is reading, and we know that iReady isn't quite as accurate for reading, we anticipate to actually have higher in both third grade and fourth grade for projected meeting or advance on the forward. And then here is our John Long Middle School data for ELA again. Again, gray, the dark gray is predicted from last year, orange is how they actually performed, and light gray is the predictions from this year. We are predicted to increase students in the meeting and advanced categories for grades 5, 6, and 7 based on this data. And again, iReady isn't as accurate for ELA, but we hope to see that increase. Looking at math, so again, our elementary, 3rd and 4th grade projected proficiency. 3rd grade, 78% is what iReady's predicting for 3rd graders for meeting and advanced, and then 75% of our 4th graders. Based on trends from last year, this is a more accurate representation of how our students will perform, but again, we'll continue to track and then report out. And then here is our John Long Middle School projected proficiency. You can see that we are projected to have 71% of our 5th graders, 74% of our 6th graders, 76% of our 7th graders, and 86% of our 8th graders scoring meeting or advanced on the forward exam based on iReady's predictions. So in summary, we'll continue to monitor iReady's projected proficiency. We want to determine if it's an accurate reading for us to use in the winter. If it's reliable, it would be a great additional data point for us to continue to use with our teachers and our staff. If it's not as reliable, we might want to look for other means of tracking. Compared to the 2025 forward scores, we are currently projected to perform better in the following areas: 5th, 6th, and 7th grade reading, and then also 7th and 8th grade math. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Comments, questions? Are there other districts in the area that use iReady that see that same discrepancy?
There are other districts in the area that use iReady. I've not specifically asked if they are tracking projected proficiency like we are. One of the sides to iReady is we lose projected proficiency historically. So unless we collected the data last year, which we did, we don't have that to go backwards.
Good. I believe information only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. All right. J, notification of technical corrections and Neola update.
Yes, per board policy, when we do our Neola updates, if there are any technical revisions that occur to policies, then I am to update the board at the next scheduled meeting. So even though our policy committee has not met to review all the policy changes and so forth, this is approved by Neola. So these were the technical revisions that have been approved by myself into these policies.
Informational only, comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Student overnight trip request.
Yes, we'd ask for board approval for a couple of our overnight trip requests. One for our GHS Robotics FTC state competition in Beloit that Mrs. Sumner and Mr. Dodge will be taking students to on March 13th. They have 10 students that will be competing at state. This is the first team in school history to advance to state for FTC, so we talked about that before, so congratulations to them, and we'd ask for board approval for that trip, as well as our Grafton High School Golf has a varsity golf meet in Janesville on May 1st and May 2nd. And this is a varsity golf meet that we've been going to for the last 13 years. It's one of the oldest high school golf tournaments in the state of Wisconsin, so we'd ask for approval for those two overnight trips.
Comments, questions? I look for a motion to approve the student overnight trip requests as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that passes. Gift reports.
So we have 4 gift reports we would ask for approval from the board for. One from Office Depot with Justin Browick as our contact person. It's a unrestricted gift, but it goes to Woodview Elementary and for a gift card of $817.34. Luann Reblinbo has made a restricted gift to the CTE department of $8,000 for donation for the GHS Career and Technical Education Department. We have Cheryl Herbeck for the GHS Wrestling restricted gift. She was the winner of the GABC Winter Raffle, so she is donating that $500 back to the wrestling program. And the Grafton Gridiron Club contact person of Greg Schaefer is donating $2,156.40 to purchase the custom state champion football ring boxes, 72 of them that players purchased, and the Gridiron Club is purchasing the boxes to save them having to purchase the box as well.
Comments or questions on the gift report? Look for a motion to approve the gift report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. And we'll give everyone a letter for their generosity to the district. Next board meeting will be back at Grafton High School, so that will be March 23rd. That brings us to adjournment. The Board of Education will consider a motion to convene a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Section 1, subsection C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance, evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility for purposes of considering employment and retention of a staff member. Do we have a motion to go into closed?
So moved. Second?
Bob?
Yes.
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 Yes.